Hello, my name is Amy McConnell, and I am a doctoral candidate at Baylor University in the Learning and Organizational Change program. I am honored for you to be viewing today my final defense presentation for my problem of practice. My study is titled, How Does the Remote Work Environment Impact Teachers' Mental Health and Well-Being in a K-12 Online School? An explanatory sequential mixed methods study. Throughout my presentation, I will discuss the problem statement, relevant literature that I found during my literature review, my purpose statement, my research questions, my theoretical framework, in particular, how it influenced my study, the methodology that I chose, the overview of my findings, the implications, and my distribution plan. Online school systems place too little emphasis on teachers' mental health and well-being, particularly in online K-12 environments. Teachers in the K-12 setting carry a heavy emotional and cognitive load, and teachers in the remote work environment experience the same emotional and cognitive load as their in-person counterparts. However, they often lack some of the same social supports that in-person teachers experience. Teachers strive to meet the social emotional needs of their students and create engaging learning experiences, often putting their students' mental health and well-being before their own. If school systems and individuals do not address mental health or well-being, the efficacy of instruction and the support offered to students may decrease, teachers can experience burnout, and may leave the teaching profession. During the course of my literature review, I quickly learned that mental health and well-being are intricately connected constructs that influence one another. Each of these constructs impact individuals in a complex manner through physical and social reactions. During my literature review, I focused on the following 4 areas: mental health and well-being, how mental health influences well-being, the mental health and well-being of teachers, and the history and prevalence of online education in the work-from-home environment, and how they can potentially influence mental health and well-being. I used the inverted pyramid strategy, beginning broadly with defining mental health and well-being and funneling down to the online asynchronous school environment, which directly related to my data collection site. As many definitions of mental health and well-being have been proposed by various scholars, for this study, I utilized the definition of mental health established by the World Health Organization and the definition of well-being defined by Dr. Martin Seligman through his well-being theory. I chose each of these definitions because they are thorough and focus on encompassing a multitude of individual factors that can influence an individual. Unfortunately, throughout the course of the literature review process, I was unable to find any literature that addressed how the remote nature of an online K-12 school system affects teachers' mental health and well-being. The purpose of my study was to determine how asynchronous online teachers in a K-12 school system perceive their mental health and well-being. Educational success depends on the excellence of its teachers, and school systems must be intentional in their attempt to support, motivate, and retain their qualified teachers. 4 research questions guided my study. My first quantitative research question asked, is there a statistically significant difference in the well-being of teachers who have taught less than 2 years compared to teachers who have taught more than 2 years at Digital Academy? My second quantitative research question asked, is there a statistically significant difference in the PERMA scores of teachers who have taught less than 2 years compared to teachers who have taught more than 2 years at Digital Academy? My qualitative question asked, how do teachers at Digital Academy describe their mental health and well-being? And my mixed methods question asked, how do the teachers' descriptions of their mental health and well-being explain the scores on the teacher's subjective well-being questionnaire and the PERMA profiler? Dr. Martin Seligman's well-being theory served as the theoretical framework for my study. Dr. Seligman has been influential in defining well-being and the measures that comprise it. He identified 5 measures that form the construct of well-being and determined that all individuals universally pursue positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment, that he commonly referred to as PERMA. I chose to utilize a validated quantitative instrument that assessed for the specific measures of the well-being theory to ensure that the data that I collected aligned with my theoretical framework. I utilized the results from the quantitative survey to identify areas that required further explanation regarding teachers' mental health and their well-being. I utilized the well-being theory's measures to develop semi-structured interview questions that allowed participants the opportunity to provide a more robust understanding of their mental health as it related to the measures. The well-being theory informed each step of my data analysis process, and I utilized the integration of qualitative and quantitative data to describe how the work-from-home environment influences teachers' responses to the measures from PERMA associated with the well-being theory. I chose to use an explanatory sequential mixed methods approach to data collection for my study. This approach involved integrating the quantitative data with the qualitative data to provide additional insight into the relationship between the remote work environment and teachers' mental health and well-being that I did not believe other methodologies could offer. Within this study, the quantitative data I collected required further explanations. Therefore, qualitative data provided an in-depth description to elaborate upon my quantitative results. I chose to use the sequential approach to the study because the information that I collected during the confidential quantitative surveys informed the questions that I asked participants during their semi-structured interviews. During this explanatory sequential approach, I also chose to emphasize the qualitative data over the quantitative. The qualitative responses from my participants were able to provide greater meaning to the statistical relationship between the mental health and well-being of teachers who taught at Digital Academy for less than 2 years against teachers who have taught at Digital Academy for more than 2 years. Finally, the integration of the quantitative and qualitative data highlighted and broadened my understanding of the relationship between the remote work environment and the teacher's mental health and well-being. I chose to use Digital Academy as the data collection site for my problem of practice. Digital Academy has a rich history of providing homeschool curriculum to families and have been serving families since the late 1880s. In 2019, an online education company purchased the school and they began to serve families in an online capacity. The school currently serves more than 1,000 students in grades K through 12 with enrollments from every U.S. state and several countries. Students work on all coursework asynchronously, and Digital Academy employs highly qualified certified teachers to guide them in their learning journey. Teachers make themselves available to work with students in one-on-one settings to provide individualized academic support and offer optional synchronous opportunities for social interactions through optional classes and clubs. Upon graduation, students receive a fully accredited high school diploma. Staff members at Digital Academy all work remotely across the United States. During this study, the school employed 39 teachers, 3 administrators, and 2 support staff. I chose this site to collect data because of my positionality as an administrator of Digital Academy's sister school, Inspire Christian Academy. As both schools compose the consumer division of Engaging Learning, I will utilize the data collected from Digital Academy to influence teacher supports at Inspire Christian Academy after I complete this study. Throughout my data analysis, I identified 3 key findings. The first finding indicates that all teachers at Digital Academy enjoy working with students and perceive themselves as being successful as teachers. They also indicated positive subjective well-being as noted by their scores on the teacher's subjective well-being questionnaire. They enjoyed working with students and they perceived themselves as successful teachers. The quantitative data determined that there was not a statistically significant difference in the subjective well-being of teachers at Digital Academy for teachers who have taught more than 2 years against teachers who have taught less than 2 years. Most teachers indicated in the quantitative survey they were successful as a teacher and they were good at helping students. The qualitative data confirmed these results from the quantitative data as all teachers spoke most positively about the joy and excitement that they get from working with students above any other topic. All 5 participants emphatically expressed that they enjoyed working with students and perceived themselves as a successful teacher. Key finding 2 indicates that teachers who have taught at Digital Academy for less than 2 years have better well-being than teachers who have taught at Digital Academy for more than 2 years, based on results from the PERMA profiler. Results from the qualitative interviews partially confirms the quantitative data. Participants who have been at Digital Academy less than 2 years generally had more positive responses to the qualitative interview questions that align with results from the PERMA profiler. However, all participants shared similar overall statements, saying that they do enjoy working with students, they perceive themselves as successful teachers, but also noted there were several stressors associated with the online work environment that negatively influenced their mental health and well-being. In the third key finding, all teachers noted the isolative nature of Digital Academy and that the onboarding process caused them to experience anxiety that negatively influenced their mental health and well-being. I did not intend to explore anxiety during my study. However, anxiety emerged as an unexpected finding that I determined noteworthy. All participants described the work from home environment as isolating, sometimes making them feel as though they work on a desert island, and they miss the regular communication and camaraderie associated with in-person teaching. However, all participants said that the positive aspects of working remotely far outweighed the negative aspects, and they would not choose to teach in person again. Participants noted that becoming more comfortable using the learning management system and the procedures associated with teaching online did cause them to experience less anxiety overall. Overall, my key findings align with previous research that I presented during my literature review. The Mayo Clinic asserts that individuals will experience mental health concerns throughout their life, including stress and anxiety. All participants at Digital Academy indicated they experienced factors associated with the remote work environment that negatively influenced their mental health and well-being. Well-being provides the capacity to overcome and handle stressors that negatively influence mental health. And participants' responses indicated that the stress and anxiety associated with their position negatively influenced their physical health. Teachers at Digital Academy experienced a decrease in their emotional labor. Emotional labor can increase symptoms of depression. Teachers did note a lack of support during the onboarding process, and when teachers experience a lack of support and adequate training, they will begin to experience greater occupational stress. Employees who work from home experience isolation after a prolonged tenure. Teachers started to notice feelings of loneliness, stress, and anxiety related to the isolative nature of Digital Academy and their onboarding process that negatively influenced their mental health and well-being. It is noteworthy to mention that all teachers who participated in the semi-structured interviews indicated that the positive aspects of working at Digital Academy far outweigh any negative factors that can negatively influence their mental health or well-being. The data collected through this problem of practice suggests that if engaging learning in Digital Academy does not address the disparity in the well-being of their teachers, they risk teacher well-being decreasing with prolonged employment. As several researchers have noted, increased isolation not only negatively influences mental health, but also teaching efficacy. I recommend that Digital Academy, as well as other online schools, utilize the results of this research to inform their practices and reflect on the systems they have in place to support their teachers' mental health and well-being. I also suggest that further research should be conducted, focusing on how the impact of the work-life balance for online teachers influences their mental health and well-being. To disseminate the findings of my problem of practice, I have already begun a book chapter that I have co-written with my faculty advisor, highlighting the necessity of supporting teachers' mental health and well-being in remote K-12 settings. I plan to also continue conference presentations and developing further publications targeted towards digital learning. I will disseminate my findings to the administration system of Digital Academy and the senior leadership team of Engaging Learning. I plan to implement new systems and programs to support the teachers at Inspire Christian Academy. I appreciate the time that you took to watch my presentation, and I look forward to answering any questions that you might have at my defense on May 15th. Have a blessed day.